All right, guys. Well, it is that time. Glad you all made it. Thank you very much. I always like to kind of get a feel for who's in the audience this afternoon. But first, is anybody tired? Are you guys still feeling okay? Thumbs up. Well, I'm getting tired, so I guess I'm the only person here. Hopefully I don't just take a nap. Hopefully this is a good presentation for you. How many people here are kind of in the project development, design, engineering world? A couple of you, don't be shy. I've been called a closet engineer, so. Builders, who's here building? Okay. And then who's maybe a builder, but you're still boots on the ground installing in the trenches? So nice cross-section, nice cross-section. I'm kind of privileged to tell you a little bit about myself. Bryan Uhler, Pioneer Builders. Dad started the company back in 1978. I came along 2 years later, and within the past few years, I've taken over for Dad. It's been kind of a natural progression, not a hostile takeover. We're still on good speaking terms. But I am very privileged because we have so many decades of experience. It's kind of in my veins. I'm deep into the building science side of construction, building code side. I'm not one of those people who just makes fun of the building code. I respect the building code. I do finance and accounting. So my background as far as the construction side that's maybe a little bit more unique is doing cost accounting. I still do our payroll, accounts receivable, so I'm also a numbers guy. We don't build too many houses every year, so we're able to retain a lot of the control, which is a nice thing. And something that is probably unique about us as a company is we're almost entirely a spec builder. So if you were at Matt's presentation this morning and he told you don't ever become a spec builder, well, anyway. It's worked for us, but for a variety of reasons, and that's not the purpose of this talk, but just to give you a little bit of insight or background. Started working for the company when I was maybe 16, 17, somewhere in there. I was the cleaner. I've done framing. I can do most elements of construction, but I could never make money doing it by hand. I'm too slow and too meticulous. I'm not, if you ever watch like a drywall hanger that are piece workers, those guys fly. I can hang drywall, but I'm not like that. So in other words, hopefully I kind of encompass a lot of the different things that you've experienced and that this talk is a little helpful. Could I get a glass of water if you're able to find one? Third presentation, the voice is starting to go. So this presentation, I really hope you find something that you enjoy or that you learn in this presentation. That's my hope, is if it's like just one thing. I hope you know what you're getting into by being here. I'm going to talk about some things that are maybe a little personal, and you might be sitting there thinking, wow, I can't believe this guy just said that. This is supposed to be construction. But here we are. This is me. So, give a quick shout out to our classroom underwriters. Thank you so much. We've got Builders First Source, Huber Engineered Woods, Pella, and Sashco. But this is, of course, about you folks that are here. So the title of our talk is Healthy Mind, Healthy Build, Healthy Body, Healthy Build, Healthy Life. So we were hoping to have had you take a poll in advance. So hopefully you guys are comfortable enough raising your hand. I'm just going to kind of click through. As we think about these three terms, what's most important to you? So we heard a healthy mind. If you're comfortable raising your hand, is healthy mind the most important? And you don't have to. Nobody's being put on the spot here. How about healthy body? Nice. We've got a couple of supermodels. And then what about healthy home? Okay, and that's legitimate. I would say in round numbers, maybe it's like a 75, 15, 10 split, somewhere around there. I'm a cost accountant, but I always have a calculator, so hopefully I did my math right in my head there. Even Matt, at his opening talk, talked a lot about building science. And I think we see a whole lot of emphasis on that. Is anybody here familiar with like passive houses? Probably it's getting more and more popular. We spend so much time in this build environment talking about having a healthy home. What kind of filtration do you have on your mechanical systems? What's your ACH 50? In general, we have potable water because it's a code requirement. But we spend so much time focusing on having a healthy home, I just sometimes wonder if we don't forget to focus on the other things that are important. And for some of us are maybe more important, as we kind of saw by the show of hands. But let's not isolate any of these things. I mean, can we really say, I just want a healthy mind and not consider our body as part of our mind? The mind is something that is a pretty nebulous term, but ultimately it's how our brain neurons and chemicals and all of that stuff is working. It's contained within the vessel of the body. So maybe they're both important. But then what about the home? Well, if you have microbial growth going on in your home and you have young children, you might have all sorts of bizarre health outcomes that you just can't get to the bottom of. You might have heard of sick building syndrome. It's not that we care so much about the building on an emotional level, it's how it affects us as people. So kind of the purpose of this is for me to explain some things that have helped me out when it comes to these different aspects. Hopefully you'll find something that can help you out. But it's not to live in isolation. Each one of these things touches each of the other things to a greater or lesser extent. So we'll kind of take it in order of this. We'll talk about healthy mind first, and then healthy body, and then healthy home. One other comment just to make here. Sometimes we might do things after hearing a talk like this or something that we learned that makes us a little bit different from people around us. That's okay. Just kind of be confident in what works for you, and I'll just give you an example. I had 3 talks today, and I was nervous. So last night, instead of going out, I just stayed in my hotel room and was able just to relax. Yesterday was a pretty intense day for those of you who were up in the attic with me. So you just sometimes, I had invitations, to go to dinner, and sometimes you just have to go, no, I'm on tomorrow. People have paid to see these talks. I'm not going to go out with everybody. So you might hear something here and go, okay, I think I can try that. And hopefully I give some very simple things that are achievable. Something that can be so discouraging is to set up to do something huge. Maybe let's just say we're 100 pounds overweight, and then we fail after the first couple of weeks and we just give up. But if we can find something that's very simple, something that's very achievable, then we start building that confidence. Or when we do get that setback, we already have all of this improvement that we've already done. So incremental improvement is better than trying to implement everything simultaneously. All right, so let's talk first about the mind. And the mind can be a tricky thing. I'll just say it. I have certainly suffered from anxiety from time to time. I'm not going to ask for a show of hands because we might be a little bit embarrassed about that. How many people here are custom builders? How many people here have ever gotten an email from your homeowner that made your pulse quicken a little bit? I just had it happen last week. So usually I'm a spec builder, but I'm building this custom home. I'm at the gym, and I get just this jerk email. And by the time they release this, I really hope that I've gotten my final payment. And he's like, oh, Brian's talking about me, isn't he? I remember hitting the send button. So anyway, I'm at the gym. It's between 5:30 and 6 in the morning, and I get this email, and the heart starts pounding. You have like this parasympathetic nervous system response. It wasn't a big deal, but we do react that way. And you look around and you're like, where's the bear at that's chasing me? Why did I respond this way? It's because it's in your mind. So there's just different things that we can do to hopefully, especially in the building industry, because we are predominantly builders here, be able to handle that. We might have the quick reaction, but hopefully we can just kind of get ourselves under control and put it back into context. So the day is what we're going to talk about. I would kind of contend that the day actually begins with our sleep. So just kind of curious, if you're comfortable, how many people here get just rock solid, beautiful sleep? And then how many people get good sleep? And if you're comfortable, how many people here get terrible sleep? So now we've kind of changed the curve just a little bit. I've had it all. I've had good sleep, I've had bad sleep. Something that I found that helped, and again, just trying to give you like actual tips for myself, is this is the Samsung, I don't know, S5 Pro watch, whatever it is. I'm not going to say that it's keeping track of my REM sleep and all of the phases of sleep perfectly, but I do think that having something that gives me some data kind of helps me to spot trends, to see how I'm doing. So last night I had a harder night's sleep because I was keyed up. You know, you're just thinking about all of these presentations. My sleep score was 73 today, which I'm super happy with because it could have been way worse. Normally I'm like in the 80s or 90s. Totally fine with it. So sleep is extremely important, and I'll just talk about some tips for how you might be able to get some better sleep. And maybe even do some breathing exercises if you guys are up for it. So here's one tip. If you have a hard time with sleep, don't obsess about it. Because sometimes the obsessing about it makes it worse, right? If you're just like, I have to get to sleep, but I haven't for so long, it's okay. Your body will sleep when it has to sleep. And I watched one guy on YouTube. I don't know if this is true or not, but it made me feel good, so I'm going to go with it. Even if you're just laying there resting, your body is still recharging. It's not going to recharge as quickly as, like right now my phone is charged into one of those little battery packs. It's not going to charge as quickly as if it was in the 120 volt, but it will recharge. So even if you can't get to sleep, just relax. Don't try to force yourself to go to sleep. Consistency is an extremely important thing when it comes to sleep. Not going to bed at different times if possible or getting up early, even on the weekends. If possible, don't have that be the time to just sleep in as long as you want. My kids, especially my oldest, sometimes has a hard time with sleep. An expression that I learned that I tell him is, the time you go to sleep is dependent upon the time you wake up, or something along those lines. So if you're having a hard time and you set that consistent wake-up time, it might set you for going to sleep later. If you're a stand-up comedian like Parsa over here, you're going to sleep in till 11 in the morning because nighttime is when you're going to do your work. You might still be getting the 7 to 8 hours of sleep. You've just shifted where that's going to be. And one other thing that you might be able to tell about me, I tend to be fairly data-driven, and so that's where some of this stuff comes from, and that's why I like having a watch or things like that. I would love to be able to change it. Have you guys seen the rings? Samsung has a ring that you can wear. It's like $400. It's like, so Samsung, if you're watching, I would love to be sponsored, but I'm not willing to pay that amount of money. But you're able to start tracking things, which I think is helpful. Something else that we might notice as we get older, so I'm 44, and I used to be an 8 hours of sleep a night guy. That was just how it was. But what I found as I've gotten older, and I think the data supports this, you tend to need less sleep. So that's something just to factor in. Kind of in relation to the beginning of this talk, be willing to be flexible, be willing to change. Experiment, try different things. So as a home builder, we are always trying to incrementally improve how we're building our houses. And I think that that's a nice way to take it even with something like this. So you might think you need X amount of sleep, and then you might realize that you don't need that amount of sleep. And I want to try to tie this back into a healthy home as we get to the end. So how do we actually set up our indoor environment to be able to get to sleep. Do you guys think it's best to have a little bit of light in the room or to have it darker? What do you think? So that's pretty standard. Spend the money for blackout shades. Or if you have to wear the eye mask to block it out, that's okay too. Sometimes I have to do that, especially come summertime, even with the blackout shades. How about temperature? You want it cooler? Do you know what temperature you like?
Should it be 66?
66? What else do we have? It depends, right? So my wife and I like it at 67. We've tried 66 and it's too cold. 68 is too warm. 67 is the sweet spot for us. But it could be something different. You've got your blankets, there's a whole lot of things. And now here's something that's going to get a little weird, but I'm going to say it anyways. If you're a woman, at certain times of the month, your temperature is going to change. So that might impact your sleep. My wife isn't here yet. I'm just going for it. Once you become premenopausal or menopausal, your temperature is going to change. And boy, if you wake up with hot sweats, and I'll tell you, my mom was very open about her situation. I won't get into... No, I almost said it, but I'm not going to. She might end up watching this. But we're all adults here. It's the reality. And if we can get our sleep better and wake up feeling good, that's going to set the day. It really will. All right, let me just see what I'm missing here. A couple of other things just to consider. Recently, I heard that this concept of looking at your screen before bed is not necessarily true, or having to try to filter out the light, this and that. Take that for what it's worth. This is what I think is the more important thing. Do something before bed that helps you to relax. So if scrolling through Instagram upsets you, don't do it. It's not doing you any good. But if you enjoy it and it's relaxing, what do I care? I have a business account at Pioneer Builders, Inc., if you guys want to follow me. I promise I don't talk about all this stuff on my feed too often. But I have a personal account where I follow like Maserati and Ferrari, just like things that I enjoy. No stress whatsoever. That's okay. So don't be too dyed in the wool on most anything. Just kind of filter it through yourself, not just what you hear me or what you hear somebody else say. Just find what works for you. But if we're doom scrolling and we're getting anxious, that's no good. I tend to read paper books. That's my thing. So before bed, if I'm not just so tired that I fall asleep quickly, and I've been doing this for years, I have a headlamp and I read a paper book and I get quiet or tired and I'm out. Elizabeth knows, my wife. 30 seconds and she can just hear my breathing and I'm gone. Now here's another interesting / weird one. I listened to a podcast, and the gentleman talked about, or maybe it was the person that was on it, the history of men and women sleeping together. Beds is what I'm referring to there. In the past, if you watch like Downton Abbey, they didn't sleep in the same bed. But then in other places, you'll have 12 people in the same room. My dad was raised in North Dakota. He had 7 siblings. So there were a lot of them. I don't know how many rooms, but sometimes you have to do what you have to do. Throughout history, it's changed, is the bottom line. And this is where you have to kind of do things that work for you, even if your friends are going to make fun of you. And my friends make fun of me. We don't sleep in the same bed. We sleep in the same room, and our sleep is amazing. And part of the reason is because my wife rolls around. She's like, and she'll say this, she's like a dog who will just keep circling and circling until she's comfortable. And for me, because my brain can be very active, if I fall asleep and I get woken up, I'm ready. And then the mind is going. You're thinking about whatever is going on the next day. So again, do what works for you. That just happens to work for us. A couple of other, I just don't want to get ahead on my slides here. Okay, let me back up. Here's a couple of other things, and then we'll wrap up this discussion on sleep. Sometimes I wake up, and here's something that I learned from, you may have heard of the gentleman, Jeff Cavalier. He is the Athlete X YouTube channel. So he describes himself as a science-based lifter. So you can see already kind of why I like this guy. So he demonstrated something with sleep that if you're comfortable doing it, and if not, it's a muscular thing / a breathing exercise. So you literally crunch the muscles on your forehead, breathe in, and count to 8. I'm not going to do the whole thing. And breathe out. And then as you work through from the top of your head down, you clench your face. And you're flexing those muscles. Breathe in, hold it, and you're tricking your body to just relaxing. And I just made a guy yawn. So if you're ever wondering, he's like relaxing right now. Rock solid. But it helps us just to relax. Maybe in the morning or during the day if we're having a hard time. Has anybody here ever heard of box breathing? A couple of us. So you can breathe in and take, say, 5 seconds. Hold it for 5. Breathe out for 5, and then leave it exhaled for 5. And you're just tricking your body. That's kind of the science-based part. I don't want to get like meta and all of this kind of stuff. It's how the body works. So if we can work within those parameters, that can help us to relax. So when you get that email from your customer that upsets you, but you're kind of used to having some of these tips, tricks, and techniques that are physiological, it can help you to put things in perspective. All right, we are now officially done with sleep. So here's another thing. Again, we're talking about healthy mind, having a set of routines in the morning. Let me see here. Okay. So I'll just tell you what my routines are, and now you can see how a lot of these things end up relating together. Check my time. I get up on, and it's kind of changing. I'm fluctuating this a little bit. But on Tuesday and Thursday morning, I get up at 4:30, and I go to the gym, and I'm there by about 5, and I'm able to spend maybe an hour, 15 minutes, hour and a half, whatever, and I work out. And I work out pretty hard, and you'll get to see that a little bit later. It's really enjoyable for me, for my morning routine. I'm home before 7, and I'm able to take my oldest son, who's 13, to school. He rolls out of bed around 7, he showers up, my wife gets up at about the same time, and we're able just to spend some time together getting the day going. But we have a routine. My brother just showed up. Sometimes we have to take care of some work, and that's just the reality. So again, it's kind of the idea of don't be too brain locked into any of these things. If something has to get shifted, just shift with it. But if we can have a typical outline for what works, you're going to find that things work out better for the day. So again, I'm just telling you what I end up doing. In the summer, spring, fall time, I'm able to go for walks. I live in a very beautiful area. I like to do some stretching in the morning. I'm a spiritual person, so I might read the Bible in the morning. But I just do things that are fairly calm before the whole day just gets going. Something you might think about not doing is not getting on your phone instantaneously in the morning. Maybe it's okay for you, but maybe not. And even if it doesn't kind of wind you up mentally, maybe it takes more time than you even realize. You know, before you know it, you've lost 15 minutes of your morning that you could have been doing something else that would have truly benefited your day. Again, none of this is to tell you what you should or shouldn't do. It's just different ideas to think about. So say we've had a good routine, we got a good night's sleep, good routine in the morning, then it's time to get to work. If you're like me, sometimes I end up multitasking. I've got 2 screens, I've got a phone in my pocket with about, 75 apps. There's alerts coming at us from all over the place. It can be so easy to trick ourselves into thinking we're productive, but the science bears out that multitasking does not work. It is way better to be laser focused on whatever the task is and accomplish that to the best of your ability. Every once in a while, I'll have to go back and maybe see some accounting entries I did or something like that, and I've blown it. And I can look at it and go, nope, you were doing too much right then. As opposed to just isolating what it is that we're trying to work on and then go to the next thing. It's easy to think every time somebody texts me, I need to get back to them right away. Sometimes not. Anybody here ever heard of an Eisenhower box? We've got one gentleman. So here is an example of an Eisenhower box. So here's a productivity trick or tool. Dwight Eisenhower was extremely productive. If you get nothing else out of this, just Google Eisenhower box and kind of learn about it. I want to give credit. I might not be able to. Okay, I didn't come up with this. There's my giving credit to the gentleman. If you look it up, you'll probably see it. So he has a quote here at the bottom. What is important is seldom urgent, and what is urgent is seldom important. So it helps to start thinking about what the tasks are that we have to do in a rational, mathematical way. So across the across the top, he has urgent and not urgent. So you create your box, and then on the left hand, important, not important. You can use this box on a very holistic sense, like a very big picture, I should say, like mapping something out, life choices, whatever. And then you can micro it all the way down to what you need to do for that day. Or maybe you do it the night before the next day, so you already know when you wake up, you've kind of figured some of this stuff out. Not always easy in construction because things can happen. We have to be flexible. And then we just use your thinking ability when it comes to that. So in this case, urgent and important can be, I was driving to the job site the other day, and as I'm getting closer to the job site, the concrete guy calls me, and he was wondering about somebody to run the pump. We never do that as a company. Well, one of his guys didn't show up. We used a new pump company, and the way the liability works, they can't place the concrete, they can only run the pump. So guess who got to be on concrete pump duty? I was running the hose from the back, but I had to be flexible. So this would have been urgent and important. You've got a concrete mix truck coming. You can't delegate that. So there are just certain times where you have to say, I am the person to take care of this task. It's urgent and it's important. I need to do it right now. You get it done, and that's a good decision to be made. Urgent and not important. That one can be a little bit more difficult, but we can basically delegate is what that's referring to. You have to know who you have on your team to be able to delegate. That doesn't just mean assigning a task out. That's not effective delegation. They need to have the tools that they know clearly what they were assigned and how to execute that. And that's a good management. You can't just shoot the text over, hey, order the inspection. Do they have the phone number? Do they have the permit? Or do you take that extra 5 minutes to get all of the batch of information in there and then you delegate to somebody? Probably important when it comes to an inspection. Not urgent and important. I kind of like this one. It talks about exercising and calling family and friends. I think those are important things. But just because it's important doesn't mean you have to do it immediately. You know, it's 1:30 in the afternoon and you think, I haven't talked to my friend so-and-so in a while. He or she may not be available right then. So what would be better to do? Shoot them a text message and say, hey, you want to come over on Saturday? Or just start that communication for when you can get together. Very important even for mental health. Loneliness right now is an epidemic. So if we can have those connections, that's important, but maybe not urgent. And then not urgent, not important, delete it, eliminate it. So I think social media is kind of funny because that's what it says here. Eliminate it, checking social media. I'm the poster child for I don't eliminate it. But what you might find interesting is if you check on your phone, how much time you spend on your different apps. It could be eye-opening. Did that with my 13-year-old son. The data spoke for itself. I did that with my wife. It wasn't social media, but she was on her screen a lot, and she saw the data. It's what has happened to this society. So I'm not saying delete it or eliminate it, but control it. Maybe that does mean eliminating it or deleting it, but at least for you, figure out what works. All right, so we're going to just continue with the healthy mind. When we're at home, so we got a good night's sleep, we had a nice routine in the morning, we were highly effective, we were producers during the day. And then we get home, now we don't have to have the same stresses that we normally would. Now, occasionally I will work at night. Sometimes it just makes sense, even on the weekend. I can get more work accomplished when there is a holiday than any other day because I'm able to just focus with nothing on. So, I'm not saying don't ever work at night, but it's the same concept of being laser focused with the people now. At the beginning, I talked more about what the task at hand is, not multitasking. We're going to be fragmented with our brain, with our actual mind. We're not going to be effective. Now, if we're with people, try to listen to them and don't always be trying to think about what you're going to say back. Focus on them. That's going to help to benefit, and we're talking about healthy minds, we're just going to feel better mentally. Then when we have our Saturday night with our friend, we actually get that connection. You ever see two people at a restaurant sitting across from each other on their phones? I think I've been that person, but it's not a good method of communication. All right, healthy mind. I think it might have been us talking beforehand, but always learning, being inquisitive. And so you're, again, going to see things about me. I'm just going to put them out there. Find things that you like. Find things that you think are interesting. Get a hobby, become an expert in it, whatever the case is. But just start to broaden your mind for things that you enjoy. You might already have something, but this is something that I enjoy. I love to read. And I'm just going to take you through some of the books. So right now I'm reading this book, Thinking Fast and Slow. Very interesting concepts. He talks about System 1 versus System 2 thinking. He gets into some economic concepts like reference points. It's interesting, if you have $1,000, if somebody took $10 from you, it's going to feel a lot worse than if somebody gives you $10. So the negatives can feel different than the positives. Thinking in terms of reference points for your customer is very interesting because they don't have the knowledge that we have. So this gets into the brain quite a bit, and statistical analysis. So if that's up your alley, come talk to me later. All right, Allison Bales, A House Needs to Breathe or Does It? Anybody read this yet? This is the Bible for building science. Spoiler alert, houses don't need to breathe. It's at the very end of the book. Don't tell Allison that I said that. It's literally at the end of the book. So I just finished this. It has some appendices that I am reading my way through because I do like the data and that kind of stuff. It gets pretty deep into that. But this will give you a very overall big picture view of building science and how to create a home that will not adversely affect the occupants. It's very well done. It's mostly building science 101 level, I would say. You can pick and choose a la carte what you want to read. I just read through it all the way, start to finish. But either way is fine. Another book I'm currently reading, Facing the Mountain, A True Story of Japanese American Heroes in World War II. And this is kind of like A Boys in the Boat, if anybody's familiar with that. So I like people, and I like history. And I can't go back in time. So I like to read things and kind of live through them and just learn. So that's this concept about being inquisitive. One of the many magazines that I get is Architectural Digest because I like beautiful things. I talked about Maseratis earlier, and this has really cool stuff. It's got interior design, and I think that that's valid. We're not all just ones and zeros. So this is something, I've got one in my backpack. I'm going to be looking at it on the way home tonight, probably on the flight. All right, here's going to get a little weird with some of these, but get outside. So this is where I live. My son is recording this, and I am walking. And that's what I do. So if you're wondering, when it's good weather, wonder what Bryan's up to at 5:30 in the morning. Or if you ever see my posts on Instagram, or sometimes I'll do something from being outside. And I listen to podcasts, which I'll talk about in a little bit. There we go. Okay, so here's some of the podcasts I listen to. The first two are sports-oriented, pardon the interruption, and around the horn. They make me laugh, and they're a good diversion. So I'm not like big time into sports, but it's just fun. Marketplace is an economic podcast from NPR, and it allows me to keep up on what's going on with the market, the interest rates, other things that might be going on. Sometimes there's some stories that I'm not particularly interested in. Just go through those. It's okay. We have a finite amount of time that we're going to be listening or reading. Don't hesitate to just stop something that's not working for you, except the seminar. If the seminar is not working for you, we're almost done, so just stick it out. The Art of Manliness, funny name, but I've learned a lot from it. Stuff You Should Know, I listened to that with Ethan, and it's just got this very broad, Josh and Chuck, if anybody listens to it, it's a pretty popular one. Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me is an NPR news quiz, and it comes out on Saturdays, and it's fun to listen to, and you'd be surprised how well you can keep up on the news just by listening to that. You don't have to be on the news all the time to keep up with what's going on. Social media, we talked about it a little bit earlier. Follow accounts that inspire you, make you happy. If you get jealous because you see your friends are out partying and you're not invited, figure out what you can do so that you're not having to see that, or figure out how you can cope with it. Social media to me should be something that is enjoyable because it is not required for life. It's a bolt-on. You can bolt it on and you can bolt it off. I've unfollowed people that just don't make me happy, like my brother, and then I just refollow him because I love the guy. But take care of your mental health, because social media, and if you've got teenagers, and I'm just going to say it, especially teenage girls, know what's going on there. Don't get in the ring with toxic people unless you can handle it and that's your pastime and you're just having fun with somebody. But it's kind of the same thing. There are people, I had this guy on YouTube that would just say the dumbest things. And he may have known me. I don't know. It kind of seemed like he did. And he'd always talk about anyway, I won't even say the things he was saying. This is getting recorded. It was just ridiculous. Well, if you're getting those types of people, block them. It's your account. You're not obligated for some legal, moral, or ethical reason to allow them on your page, or vice versa, if you don't want to follow them. And then I think we talked about controlling time quite a bit there. All right, healthy body. So we're very used to hearing that the body is a system, or I'm sorry, restate that. The home is a system of systems. You've got your structural system, et cetera, and we're going to go through these. But the body is a system of systems, and we touched on that at the very beginning. The mind and the brain, it's all encompassed together. So the nervous system, I think we could liken that to the electrical system within a house. You've got your main panel, you've got controls, you've got wiring, you've got electrical signals, and that's really how our body kind of works. Skeletal system, we've got bones that support the body. If somebody, even if I had the strength, if they kept adding plates of weight to me, eventually the muscles would give out. So that's your structural system. Your columns, your beams, your studs, your rafters. For the purposes of this, I combined the muscular system and your respiratory. They kind of work together. In construction, I would call that the mechanical system. You're working with your HVAC, and yet we start thinking about, wait a second, doesn't the HVAC need a breaker, and doesn't it need wiring, and doesn't it have to have electricity coming in? House is a system of systems, so is the body. I can't be breathing here and thinking about breathe in, breathe out. Body's just naturally doing it because of how the mind works. Digestive system, let's just say plumbing system. I think we get the point of what goes on there. And then this is one that I do think is important, and we talked about it just a little bit. Finishes, style, architecture. You know, there was the brutalist movement, there was the modern movement with Mies van der Rohe. It didn't take because it wasn't good for the occupants. It could be beautiful to us, maybe it isn't. Maybe we really like Victorian architecture, and that's what we like to see. That's okay. So we're talking about the body a little bit. Think about what your style is. I know this sounds a little weird in a build conference, but what kind of clothes do I like to wear? What do I feel good in? What do I feel confident in? We do that in our houses. That's what we're talking about. What about us as people? Our microbiome is extremely complex, and I am not a biologist, but I'm going to liken that to external influences. I think that, don't quote me on this, there's like 1 trillion microbiomes in our gut, and it is a symbiotic relationship with what's happening with that and our mind. It's very complicated, and I'm not even going to pretend. I think it's the vaga nerve that goes from your stomach to your brain. Very complicated, but it's like our house. If we lived in, say, 18th century London, the London fog, those external influences have an impact. So that's the healthy home type of thing. So we want our signals to be smooth, from the brain all the way down. Recently, I was helping put in a fiberglass tub shower unit, and I just jacked all this stuff up. It's 2:42. And I was messed up, like pretty bad for a while. It was over the summertime. Then, to add insult to injury, I needed to fly out to Chicago to go to Gerber Plumbing. And my sweet daughter, who's only 6 and is just a lightweight, jumps off the couch, and I catch her with my left arm and seized up this whole part of my back. Apparently this happens when you're 44. You could play football when you're a kid and not get hurt, but a little 30-pound thing jumps on you and you're messed up. I literally was laying down, didn't know if I was going to be able to fly out the next day. So the things we talked about earlier, like having the morning routine of stretching, doing active movements, especially for those of you who are in the trades, before you lift a wall, Timmy can speak to that, get your body warmed up so that you feel better and you don't hurt yourself. I ended up going to the chiropractor, massage, and I feel super good now, but it took work to get back there. We talked about sleep already, but now we're going to see that intersection, the type of bed that we have, and then even our sleep position. I didn't talk about it on the previous slide. A couple of YouTube channels that I recommend. Christian Thibodeau, he's a French-Canadian, incredibly science-based lifter. Athlete Next I talked about earlier, he's got a video on like sleep position. So having how your spine is, how your hands are, things of that nature. And one other podcast I was going to mention was Nike Training, now that we're on this topic of bodies. Has some really good guests on there. The book that I talked about earlier discusses how when we hear things, it impacts how we even hear other things. So I've kind of hacked that a little bit myself. Like after this talk, you're probably going to hear things that you'll be influenced a little bit differently, at least in the short term, just by hearing these things audibly. I intentionally, because I know that how things affect me, I will read things or watch things in order to get motivation. I think that's what happens with a lot of Reisinger's videos. You might not have anybody around you that you can bounce off these iron sharpens iron type ideas. So pick the things that when you're needing that extra motivation, it helps you to get that. So that's part of why I'm giving you some of these different topics or resources so that you can kind of hack that intentionally. Okay, so that was focused on the nervous system and the electrical. Now we kind of have it in bold on the muscular system and respiratory. So now we're going to talk about the healthy body part. You have to kind of identify, what do you like to do? And maybe it's nothing, and that's okay. Just check out for a couple of minutes. I love to weightlift. You might not notice it, but I do. I really enjoy it. So hypertrophy is kind of a fancy term for growing your muscles, making muscles bigger. And I'll tell you, I know I'm not the only person, because when I go to the gym at 5 a.m. in the morning, it's pretty full. So maybe that's something you like to do, maybe it's not. Maybe strength is something that you're into. Maybe it doesn't have to just be one or the other. Maybe it can be both. But there is a whole scientific world about this and how cortisol interacts, and it is just fascinating hormonally. Maybe it's fat loss. Maybe we want to lose 10, 15 pounds, whatever the case is. Identify what that thing is, and then come up with something that's very attainable, like we talked about earlier, so that you can start building success. Don't think that you're going to starve yourself and lose a bunch of weight. Your body is going to rebel against you. Your body will win, and then you're going to rebound. Take it slow and steady. If you're trying to gain strength and you put 2.5-pound weights on the bar and you do one more rep than last time, that's a win. But just do something that's attainable. And here is maybe the one thing that's the most easily attainable. Most of us probably don't drink enough water. So earlier I talked about the watches. I can track my water intake. And you can just kind of set yourself up for a win there, or have a goal. Don't worry about anything else, and just say, I'm going to drink 8 ounces, and start keeping track of it. Do that for a month. And now you've started to build some kind of confidence, and you're going to feel better, right? This isn't something I'm recommending that you're going to be like, why did I drink all that water? I feel terrible. You already saw that I walk and lift weights. Now there is a purpose for the next videos you're about to see, and I will explain them. Also, my wife did the videoing on the first videos. They're stitched together. We did not plan the soundtrack, but listen for the song for the second one. That's not my wife. Thanks for laughing. Can you hear the music? Eye of the Tiger survivor, Rocky. All right, so there's a couple of things just to kind of point out. This was after I got injured, and I told you how I will watch things that will motivate me. So I watched this video, and it was about Daniel Craig's lifting routine, or his exercise routine for one of the James Bond movies. I have no idea if the person talking was telling the truth, but they said that James Bond did 3 sets of 10 pull-ups. I don't know if it's true. That's a lot of pull-ups, trust me. But that became a goal. And so find things that inspire you, and I was not able to do that many pull-ups maybe a year ago, but I had a goal that I was able to attain. So try to find attainable goals. The second part of the video, if you noticed how light the weight was that I had, it was really light. I was injured. So that might be something just to consider too. Don't just stop whatever you're doing. Try to find a way around whatever your health situation is. Maybe it's just the walking, and that's okay. But just try to find something and then build on that success. And then this one's really embarrassing. Most of us don't actually work out to failure when we're at the gym. And I get real ugly face in this video. And I had to shoot this more times because my wife kept screwing up. And I just had to keep doing it. So now I'm shaking. And I guess I got one more. My face is huge. It's puffed out. And this better be the last one. And we're done. There were no reps left in reserve. So if you start looking into that type of thing, that was it. That was like as strong as I could possibly do. And for me, that's kind of a win. I don't have any friends who would do that. So I have YouTube people that I watch, and it inspires me. I'll watch it, and they'll talk about working out to failure, true failure. Most people, they feel the lactic acid, and then they're done. But if I watch something, all of a sudden my workout's better. So that's part of this. Maybe your thing isn't working out, but whatever your thing is, go for it. All right, I'm checking my time. In general, we don't eat enough protein. This is something that I did. If you want to lose weight and you want to take a more mathematical perspective on it and you want to track your macros, I do not do that on a general basis, but I just created this little chart in Google Docs, and I just populated it with the macros. I would just Google, like, nutrition facts for an apple. I don't think that the apple has 70 calories, but it's going to get me in the world, and my background is math. So if I can just plug and play some of these different things and start playing with what works and what doesn't, it's just what I do. So that is maybe just a practical thing. You don't want to drop your weight drastically. It will really mess you up. If you want to gain muscle, you don't want to gain it too fast, typically. So this is, I think I saw a thing, metabolic drive biotest, amazing protein. I'm kind of science-based, so that is one that I would recommend. Talked about the motivation, take a steady approach. Okay. Thank you guys, by the way, for staying this whole time and listening. So now healthy home. Our bodies are way more complex, but even so, homes are extremely complicated. You've got all of those systems that we talked about: electrical, structural, mechanical, plumbing, finishes, external influences, and there's probably some that I didn't list there. In bold, now we have mechanical system. And consider just one thing to consider, your building enclosure is part of your mechanical system. Anybody here a commercial builder, or are most of us residential? Commercial, a little bit. So the IBC is the building code for commercial structures. And the way they have their chapters organized is different from the IRC. So they have one that's called, what is it now? Well, it's not coming to me, and I'm not going to spend too much time trying to remember it. Interior or indoor environment. It's one of those two. We are creating an artificial environment inside the homes that we build. So we want to understand what we're doing within that home. And we've already talked about ourselves as the healthy mind, the healthy body. Now we're living in this box that is separating us from the outside. The building enclosure is your skin. It allows things to pass through, and it blocks things. Roof, the whole thing. So consider that. Don't look at your mechanical system in isolation when it comes to your indoor, your outdoor unit, your ductwork. All of it needs to be thought of just like we talked about with our bodies. None of it operates independently of something else. So we're only going to focus on the HVAC side as we wrap up our talk here. Assess your loads and design accordingly. Climate zone 4C, but even then it's important to look at what the specific site is that you're going to be building on and then design for that. So somebody who's living in climate zone 4C that's on the bluff at Seabrook, Washington, is going to have different loading conditions from up the hill in Seattle, where it's going to be, behind a skyscraper. Say there's a residential building. Different conditions. So you want to take that engineering, rational, logical approach to your project. And then this is something that I do. I create a thermal schedule for each of our projects because it's not just the insulation that's within the stud cavities that's important, it's also the dimension of your lumber, how thick it is. That changes your total UA alternative U factor. What type of floor system are we using? Do we have trusses? Are they 2x12s? Are they 2x8s? Or are they 2x10s? It changes the amount of heat transfer. The resistance to heat transfer more precisely. What is the spacing? You might, because structure wins in my book, you might, I think we had to do one that was 12 inches on center because it was going to carry vehicular loading. You're going to restrict how much insulation you can get in there. So just understanding all of those things, so you line all of these items out. Air tightness, maybe you have a code required or a target that you're going for. Describe your door. In this case, I have a link to the door so that the energy modeler can click on that, go to the door, and get the parameters that he needs. Windows, maybe you have a separate document. I've revised and I think gotten better since I did this one, to where I put the window schedule within the same document to try to make his job a little bit easier. Notes vented over top, so you can add some notes in there and just play around with it. Create your own rows, create your own columns. Building efficiency resources, BEAR. This is a Manual S compliance report. So how many people here are familiar with like load calculations for mechanical systems? A few of us, okay. So basically what you're trying to do is to figure out how much your heating or cooling plant needs to produce in order to keep your house at the temperature that you want to live at. But you might need some help on how to actually run those calculations. And you might even need it for a code requirement, or if you're trying to get a tax credit with Department of Energy's Energy Star or ZERH, Zero Energy Ready Home, you'll probably need manual J, S, and D. You will. I won't even say may. You'll need a manual J, S, and D. Manual J is your load calcs. Manual S is your equipment. So now you're going to be able to select the equipment to match the load, not oversize and not undersize your equipment, frankly wasting money and not being able to keep your house at a nice temperature. To tie that back in. So if you do that right, remember we asked at the beginning, what do you like your temperature to be at in your room? You can now control that. So the purpose of this talk wasn't to talk about how to make a healthy home. We're not going to anthropomorphize and really care about the feelings of our home. But if we build our house in such a way that we can control it, then it leads back to, I like my temperature at 67 at this time, and at another time of the month, I need it at 66, or whatever the case might be. We can now control our home and link it back to our bodies, which then links it back to our mind. So, healthy mind, healthy body, healthy home, healthy life.